All of the Real Talk interviews are now available in one place, categorised into topics. Some of them even have bonus downloads, so jump on over to our site and check them out. The link is in the description below. Right, good afternoon everybody. Thanks for joining me today, Tim. So guys, pretty shocking news in today's address by the Prime Minister. Obviously, unfortunately, the lady's lost her life down in Greymouth. So changes the perspective on what's happening. I guess hopefully some of those people that aren't sticking to stay-at-home protocol will realise that this thing is serious and will get a little more compliance. But yeah, it's a tough blow to the country. So anyway, Tim and I were just talking before we started, and we're going to deliver a bit of a message for you today around pivoting and changing your business and how you move forward, and it's it's definitely a changing thing. So welcome, Tim.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks for having me.
And yeah, it's, as I say, it's bit of a tough start to the day for New Zealand.
Yeah,
but we'll stay strong. We'll get through.
Yes.
So Tim, like some people will know you. Obviously, you've posted in the group before. Obviously, and I've had a bit of an existing relationship. So let's just talk a little bit about, I think, what you've done before, and before we sort of dive too deep into today's message, if that helps.
Yeah, sure. So I've lived in New Zealand for 25 years. I grew up in the UK. So my background is software and IT. So I've created and ran multiple tech companies. I've gone through multiple disasters like what we're having right now. First the dotcom crash, then the GFC, and I lost multiple businesses and rebuilt. So I know what most people are going through right now because I've been through this times. And as for what I do recently, I've been doing business coaching, and I've got an online program, and I've been helping lots of businesses reach new markets. And in the last couple of weeks, I've been focusing on helping many of those clients pivot and change their business so that they can continue with business continuity, with new markets, with new products. So it's been an interesting journey to say the least, and it's a changing market. As Nick started, things changed from how I was feeling this morning about my own perception of the environment to how things would be Monday. Death changes everything. So all of a sudden, you have not only a pandemic, but a pandemic with possible fatalities. Up to now, that's been only something that you've seen
a potential for something to happen, but now it's yeah, right.
It's real. Yeah. So most of us, we have been going through this little cycle of starting with high fear, anxiety, and then we are slowly going through this point of normality. And then this sort of takes us back somewhat, and then we are a little bit more anxious again because most of us have elderly relatives. We might have family
parents
parents with high risk age category or respiratory illness. So all of a sudden, you start pointing inside your family again because your mind is sort of thinking, okay, I need to look after my family and make sure they are all okay, and which is the most important thing. And your friends circles who have got elderly relatives. And what we were talking of off air before you came on, before we went live, was about the compliance and how even now there are some people who are not taking the whole thing seriously, and we as a country should understand we are in this together and we need to get through this together.
Yeah, and I think that really leads. It's a good segue into the first sort of bullet point we're talking about, which is we really are entering a new era of the way we not just do business, but the way that we interact. I mean, there's a lot of changes coming to social environment, to travel, to everything that we kind of know.
Yes.
Or have taken what we knew go forward is going to be different. Um,
It is, yeah,
so, so,
absolutely.
so let's just have a little perspective on the new era and your thoughts on it.
So I think I was living in in the United States just after the 9/11, and one of the things that I saw happening was, as a country, they were trying to do business with their own local businesses, and the the tourism and exports, they're going to have a huge impact, because as we recover from uh, the COVID-19, many businesses will find that their best market is the local market. Uh, and people become very patriotic, regardless of which country you live in. You become, well, we need to look after our own community, we need to look after our own country. And that's
Yeah.
one thing I noticed when living in post 9/11 US. And the other thing that will happen is that those luxury end of the market, they would really suffer. This happened during GFC as well. And any businesses that offer a feeling of safety, feeling of security, feeling of love, um, anything that makes you feel good about
Mm-hmm.
living in this community will thrive. So the messaging has to align with that. People will sort of
Yeah,
resonate.
I kind of definitely feel like there'll be a shift too from, for even larger corporations that had sort of particularly use China as a manufacturing hub. I think that there'll be a
Yeah.
lot of the realization of the risk. So that could be a positive. It could stimulate local economies better.
Yes.
But yeah, I think you're right. You know, it's really getting understanding that the new era is happening, whether you want it to happen or not. And
Yeah.
really, I love that sort of thing. What you're saying about making sure that you're offering whatever it is that you're offering going forward. It talks to your community and it makes them feel a part of it, like they belong.
Absolutely. So I got two programs, and many of my modules don't have any relevance anymore because the market has completely changed.
Mm,
Your old funnels won't be working, your old Facebook ads won't be working anymore
yeah.
unless you quickly change the messaging to align with this new changing environment, with the new changing needs. And that's the heart of pivoting, is understanding and being in tune with that, so that you can quickly respond to this moving market, really.
Right, which is really, and it leads great into our second point about keeping relevant. There's no point in putting a message out about. I mean, I saw one yesterday. I actually screenshotted it about, in 4 weeks' time you can pre-book your Warrant of Fitness now. And I'm kind of thinking like, okay, like I see that they're trying, but I kind of feel like people aren't thinking about their Warrant of Fitness right now.
Yeah, yeah. I think that you're spot on there. So many of the things that we take for granted, all of a sudden takes a back seat. So our priorities have changed. We become more close knit, both as a family and as communities. So we start caring for each other more, and those material things and anything that involves that luxury end of the market, or things that you do because you've got a habit of doing it. People might get out of that habit after living at home for such a long time. And the compliance, one of the hardest things that is to do right now is make sure that everything you do and the risk posture you have is lower, because all of a sudden your survival instinct puts your immediate survival more ahead of all those other stuff, and
Yeah,
finding
yeah.
that
I
right
mean,
country support.
thinking about places like gyms, health clubs.
Yeah.
I mean, once they are allowed to reopen, what's going to be the new normal? What's going to be the new protocol?
Yeah.
And how does that
Yeah.
business stay relevant in a new social set of social constructs or rules that are going to be almost thrust upon us because of this type of event? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what would happen as a result of that is that we'll actually have a new world order where there will be new rules. There'll be some winners, there'll be some losers. And the important thing for businesses right now is to just be totally in touch with the market, to see what's happening and not be too reactive. And
Right. I
I
mean,
find,
look,
as I said,
going to say, I think a lot of businesses right now are still like, man, my doors are shut. What do I do?
I know.
So
Yeah.
it's we were sitting around this afternoon, at lunchtime, and just thinking, now's a real opportunity to sort of get creative in terms of the way we think, and if we can keep these things in mind, keep them relevant, and the leads into, like I say, talking possibility now is like, what could a new, redesigned version of your business look like?
Yeah. And during the last 72 hours, I must have spoken to about 38 business owners. And one of the things that I find is that the people are still at that initial phase of getting used to working from home. And many of them haven't even got any funding from the government yet. So they are quite anxious about just surviving or getting to the point where they can actually have the mindset to think about the new possibilities, the new opportunities. So what I thought might be a good idea for us to just look at some of those things that perhaps you should have done by now. Number one, if you haven't got any money to keep going,
Apply for the
talk to your bank.
subsidy. Look to the bank.
Well, and that's the first thing that most of you are eligible for that if you're a business owner, especially with the new changes that happened last week. And I was speaking to somebody who works with the approval process, and one of the things that you could do if you haven't heard back is make sure that your GST returns have been filed, because that way it doesn't have to be escalated to another layer, because that's one of the automatic triggers that they use. So if your GST returns have been done, filed, and up to date, and don't delay, your filing. You might get some leeway with the IRD with penalties and interest, but make sure that all your returns are up to date. And and you did a fantastic talk about framing your conversations with your suppliers and your creditors. And I just want to add to that. Just many of our business owners, we know how to do our marketing, we know how to do our cash flow and everything, but we are not very good at communicating. And one of the things that you should look at is being empathetic when you're talking to people who owe you money, and rather than sort of using, well, legally I've got every right because that's the law. Just talk to them and just understand that they are probably the same boat as you in terms of cash flow. And
I said this on a comment thread the other day. You can't legal someone into liking you.
Absolutely.
I mean,
so I stopped charging about 2 weeks ago. For the next 3 months, all my clients get my free monthlies without having to pay any money, and that's the best way I can support them. And there's a lot of things you can help each other during these times. That's that way we all come back strong and we can support each other moving forward.
Yeah, and I think that's right now it's really about, hey, who can you reach out to, which is exactly what I've been trying to do here. Is just, if one person hears something from the message that I'm sharing with you or with whoever I've got on this thing, and it enables them to think a little bit differently. We talk about possibilities, or just get through this immediate situation, which is 30 days that we know of, then that's a great outcome. Great outcome.
And it is. And if you look back at some of the comments from your previous live videos, you're already doing that. So well done, Nick. And I take my hat off to what you're doing at the moment. You're giving back so much to the community without any financial rewards. So I really, really think this is fantastic what you're doing. Well done.
Well, thank you, Tim. And look, I think we will get you back. We'll do, I think, because originally we'd planned a bit of a different topic. All of the Real Talk interviews are now available in one place, categorized into topics. Some of them even have bonus downloads. So jump on over to our site and check them out. The link is in the description below.